Welcome to Alternatify, where we dive deep into the historical what-ifs that reshape our understanding of the world. Today we ask a monumental question. What if China had the Industrial Revolution? Imagine a world where the engine of progress roared not in Europe, but in the Middle Kingdom. This is a journey into a world where the balance of power is flipped, and the familiar becomes alien. Get ready for a mind-blowing exploration of a Chinese Industrial Revolution. We aim to engage, provoke, and captivate, offering a fresh perspective for alternative history enthusiasts, parallel universe fans, and history buffs alike. Why is China a plausible candidate for the Industrial Revolution? In the 18th century, China was an economic, technological, and cultural powerhouse. It boasted a long history of innovation, giving the world paper, gunpowder, the compass, and printing. Europe's Industrial Revolution relied on several key ingredients. These included access to abundant raw materials, a burgeoning merchant class, and a vibrant scientific revolution. A supportive political climate, encouraging innovation and trade, was also crucial. China possessed immense strengths, including vast raw materials and an unparalleled workforce. Its tradition of exquisite craftsmanship was also a significant asset. However, there were considerable hurdles. The Qing dynasty often resisted radical change, prioritizing stability over disruptive innovation. The powerful scholar bureaucracy tended to stifle merchant influence and new ideas. The merchant class itself had limited political power, unlike its European counterparts. For China to industrialize, a hypothetical shift would be necessary. Perhaps a reform-minded emperor, an increase in merchant power, or a series of fortunate technological and political breakthroughs could have ignited the spark. If China had industrialized first, the global balance of power would have shifted dramatically. We would see a Chinese-led global order instead of European dominance. China's influence would be felt universally, shaping every continent. Mandarin would likely become the lingua franca of international business and diplomacy. Chinese art, philosophy, and technology would emerge as dominant cultural forces worldwide. The very fabric of global culture would be rewoven. Ancient trade routes like the Silk Road would transform into superhighways of commerce and ideas. Goods, knowledge, and people would flow across continents, connecting east and west in unprecedented ways. This would create a truly interconnected global economy centered on China. However, Chinese industrialization would not be without its challenges. The exploitation of resources would be immense, leading to significant environmental impact. The potential for social unrest, driven by rapid change and inequality, would also be a constant threat. The impact on Europe would be profound. Its rise to global dominance would be delayed or perhaps entirely absent. European influence would be dwarfed by China's, relegating it to a regional power rather than a global hegemon. The Americas, too, would follow a vastly different trajectory. Without European industrial might driving colonization, indigenous cultures might have flourished unimpeded. The United States, as we know it, might never have come into being, or would exist in a radically altered form. Africa's fate would also be dramatically different. Without the European industrial-driven scramble for resources and the transatlantic slave trade, the continent could have pursued independent industrial and societal development. Its rich cultures and diverse nations would evolve on their own terms. The rest of Asia, including Japan, Korea, and Southeast Asia, would navigate a China-dominated world. Their relationships with the industrial giant would be crucial, shaping their destinies and development paths. They might become economic partners, cultural satellites, or even rivals. Technological development would take an alternative path. Technologies we recognize, like the internal combustion engine or the internet, might still emerge, but with different principles and architectures. They would reflect Chinese philosophical and engineering approaches. The very concept of technology and progress would be shaped by a Chinese-led industrial revolution. Innovation would follow different priorities, perhaps emphasizing collective benefit or harmony with nature. This would redefine what progress truly means. Throughout this exploration, we will consistently examine both the advantages and disadvantages of this alternate reality. No historical path is purely beneficial or entirely detrimental. This speculative journey reveals the complex interplay of forces. The social and cultural impacts of a Chinese industrial revolution would be profound. Confucian values emphasizing collectivism, social harmony, and respect for hierarchy might shape the global economy. Individualism, so central to Western industrialization, might be less prominent. Chinese influences would lead global artistic and intellectual movements. Its rich traditions in arts, literature, and philosophy would dominate, inspiring new forms of expression worldwide. The world's cultural landscape would be distinctly Sinocentric. Global communication and narratives would be fundamentally altered. Different languages, stories, and ways of understanding the world would prevail. The dominant global discourse would reflect Chinese perspectives and priorities. However, there would be potential downsides to Chinese industrialization. An authoritarian state, prioritizing control and stability, might lead to the suppression of dissent. The exploitation of workers, a common feature of early industrialization, could be widespread. Centuries of Chinese-led industrialization would undoubtedly lead to massive environmental consequences. Pollution and resource depletion would be global challenges, perhaps even more severe due to China's vast scale. The planet would bear the scars of this progress. Even with a single superpower, geopolitical conflict would be inevitable. Power struggles and tensions would arise from competing interests, resource scarcity, and ideological differences. The world would still be a complex and often dangerous place. We have journeyed through a world reshaped by a Chinese industrial revolution. We've considered the pros and cons, exploring a familiar yet alien world. This thought experiment reveals how profoundly different our present could be. The value of alternative history lies in its power to make us question our assumptions. It forces critical thinking about the forces that shape our world. It fosters an appreciation for the complex interplay of events and decisions. So we ask you, our viewers, would this alternate world be better, worse, or simply different? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear your perspectives on this fascinating possibility. If you enjoyed this deep dive into historical what-ifs, please like this video, subscribe to Alternatify and hit the notification bell. Let us know what other historical scenarios you'd like us to explore in future videos. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep imagining the possibilities. Alternatify signing off.